77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts, including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Chance of afternoon thunderstorms, the high 90. Tonight and overnight, scattered thunderstorms, low 74. And then Thursday, clouds in the morning, thunderstorms again in the afternoon, high 84. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 75, partly cloudy in Long Beach out on Long Island. 73 and partly cloudy in West Milford over in New Jersey. And it's 74 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
Those were some pretty wild storms last night. The flood death toll climbs even higher in Texas. Zohran Mamdani picking up some big endorsements. Some former NYPD cops say they were cheated out of promotions. Con Ed wants you to pay more to keep the juice flowing. And why don't we throw in one more? Elias Raff turns 23. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Crews, happy birthday, Elias, by the way. Crews were cleaning up and will be cleaning up this morning in Westchester, Rockland County, over in Passaic County in New Jersey, down the Jersey Shore after some pretty intense storms. Some places it started yesterday afternoon. It went into last night. Lightning strikes, heavy winds, rain that was sort of going sideways in some places, bringing down trees, knocking out power to thousands. In Greenwood Lake, which borders New York and New Jersey, the rain knocked over trees and knocked out the power.
And tree branches blowing around, pool floats going over, and stuff blowing out into the lake. It was quite unexpected.
Yeah, so as of last night, just in that town alone in Hewitt, which is right next door to Greenwood Lake, there was about 2,000 without power, but we were watching this morning as crews came in to get the juice flowing again, so they may have it as we speak.
The rain was coming sideways, and it looked like a whiteout, as if it was snowing. You know, it was quite a storm. It was amazing. It really was.
Nearby in West Milford, this homeowner watched a tree take out part of his patio.
Pretty loud. The roof lifted up a little bit from the wind, and then the tree came down. I just had them done. I had all new electric done a couple months ago.
Okay, so at one point there was about 10,000 JCP&L customers that had no power. That number's much lower, so we can say a smattering of outages across the tri-state. Up in Montebello in Westchester County, it was the afternoon when the storm blew through and knocked over trees there, and some people say it was some of the most intense weather they've seen in quite a while.
The storm then was really very windy, a lot of wind, and a lot of thunder and lightning. I had no idea that anything had come down.
It's Mother Nature. Hey, what can we do about it?
All right, so here is the good news, at least as of 5:03 this morning. There's no word of any being injured or killed like we had in those storms last week in New Jersey. 5:03, it will be another hot day. Of course, it is summer, so it's supposed to be hot, but it'll hit around 90 degrees in most places today. So people are being urged, if they don't have air conditioning, to find it again today like they did yesterday. Mayor Adams telling New Yorkers to limit their time outdoors, do the thing you're supposed to do when it's really hot, drink lots of water if you're outside.
Extreme heat is the top death-related weather emergency that we have in our city. And so it's our goal is always to prepare.
And as we said yesterday, and we'll say it again today, if you know people, especially the elderly, young kids, make sure you check on everybody today. Make sure the AC is blowing in their homes. If it's not, you can call 311 and you can get a list of the local cooling centers near you, which include libraries, firehouses, that kind of thing. 504. There was this traffic nightmare last night on the way home through the Lincoln Tunnel. The good news I can tell you is I drove through it this morning. Everything is just fine. But a car caught fire just at the height of rush hour in a westbound tube yesterday that led up to backups that went past the Port Authority bus terminal. It took forever to people to get home. But again, the good news this morning is even though we watch this video, flames could be seen on video coming from the car in the tube. Everybody pulling out their phones to see what was going on. No word of any injuries, but they were taken to the hospital to be checked out. 5 other people were treated at the scene. We're told they're all okay. What started this fire, that's not 100% clear. The good news is this morning, everything seems to be fine in and out of the Lincoln Tunnel. 505, the NYPD investigating after a man was shot dead, 2 others hurt in a shooting and slashing up in the Bronx.
It happened in the Longwood section at Southern Boulevard and Westchester Avenue around 4 p.m. 18-year-old Shannon Kelsey was found shot in the chest. He was pronounced dead at a hospital. A 15-year-old boy was slashed in the face, and a 38-year-old man was shot in the leg. They're both expected to recover. No arrests, but reports say police have identified 3 suspects who fled on foot. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Let's go down to Texas, where this nightmare just gets worse. Texas Governor Greg Abbott taking an aerial view of the historic flood damage in south central Texas yesterday.
When you're in the air, you get a fuller perspective of how widespread, how catastrophic the damage is, and what must be done to fully address it.
He says the death toll statewide now sits at 110. There could still be 160 others still missing. They're still trying to figure this all out, but they say there's no doubt that the death toll will go higher.
To put this into perspective, there are far more fatalities than there were in Hurricane Harvey. Just in the Kerr County area alone, there are 161 people who are known to be missing.
Now, some of this they will readily admit is they try to find these people and they don't identify themselves to say they're no longer missing and they can't match them on the sheet. But for the vast number on that sheet, they are really missing today.
Just in the Kerr County area alone, there are 161 people who are known to be missing. The championship teams.
Oh, so we should point out, of course, one of the big questions the governor is being asked is about the notification system, why these camps may have not been notified. Was there a failure on part of the government? Was it just a technological thing? So the governor was asking questions about the warning systems for floods like this one.
The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man. We got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, then we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers.
Yeah, so he's saying, look, we just need to fix what went wrong.
My focus isn't on trying to say, oh, you did wrong or you should have done better there. My job is to bring Texas and Texans together. We have to find every single person who's missing. And that's job number 1.
Yeah, okay, so 109, 110 dead, 160 missing. What we're really good at as Americans is helping people when they need our help, when they're in need, whether it be here in the U.S. or around the world. And that's what's happening in South Central Texas. Police forces, fire departments, all sending their crews, their best search and rescue crews to Texas to assist in locating trapped flood victims if they're still alive. This crew is from South Florida.
We do a myriad of training with the canines for locating victims that are not visible, as well as water rescue, swift water, and wide area flooding. That's
Battalion Chief Brandon Webb, who's from the Miami-Dade Fire Urban Search and Rescue Task Force 1 crew. He says the devastation, the widespread devastation along the river in South Central Texas is rough. rough, and he vows that his team will do whatever it can to help families with however this all ends.
Our hearts go out to the families affected by this horrible disaster, and we're willing to do anything we can to assist them with recovery and getting back to a sense of normalcy. While every disaster is different, we expect widespread devastation along the rivers, and we'll be assisting with locating personnel that are either trapped or missing.
So incredibly hard for, obviously, the families who are going through so much heartbreak, but for these first responders who are coming upon these bodies, especially when it's kids, you can imagine how tough that is. President Trump, meanwhile, praising Homeland Security Chief's response to the flooding in Texas. He did so during a cabinet meeting at the White House yesterday. He told reporters Kristi Noem got people to Texas as fast as possible.
I want in particular, because of what she's gone through this last few days, done an incredible job. I think a lot of lives have been saved. That could have been as bad as it was. Yeah, you could have lost double or triple.
Yeah, and Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem says parents who come to flooded camps have been met with grief counselors.
That when they came into the camp, that they have somebody with them when they're going and looking for their children's belongings or looking for their children. We deployed, sir, right away, the Coast Guard. We also had some assets out of Customs and Border Protection. Our BORTAC teams went in. And
in Kerrville, the town that was hit so hard by this flooding, the mayor there, his name is Joe Herring Jr., says everybody there is still processing everything that's happened.
There's some anger, of course. I lost 2 friends in this flood. And I would do anything to have warned them that the river was way. I would do anything.
There are still 5 campers and 1 counselor missing from that girls' camp, the Camp Mystic in Kerr County, where 27 girls and counselors have died.
I checked the weather that night.
Yeah.
I am positive that the owner of Camp Mystic checked the weather that night. I am positive the owner of Heart of the Hills Camp for Girls checked the weather that night. That night, we had a very slim chance of rain the next day.
Yeah.
We had no flash flood warnings.
And Mayor Herring Jr. saying that he wishes, like so many, that he could go back in time and warn everybody about what was coming.
The question is, do I wish we had warned those people? Absolutely. The question is, do I hope we warn people better in the future? Absolutely. But it's a high cost to pay for both of those things.
Okay, so here's what we know so far. At least 110 dead across 6 counties. In Kerr County, officials report the deaths of 57 adults, 30 children from that summer camp. In Texas, Governor Greg Abbott saying 161 more people are reported missing. And he said last night they will not stop until every missing person is accounted for. 5:13, let's bring it back home. Self-driving cars, apparently one step closer to reality here in New York City.
Baby, you can drive my car. Autonomous driving company Waymo says they're conducting testing in the Big Apple. The California-based company, owned by Alphabet, the Google parent company, applied for a permit to test self-driving cars in New York last month. That's yet to be approved. So a person is behind the wheel as neighborhoods are mapped and information is collected to improve the technology and vehicle performance. Vehicles being tested in Manhattan, north of Central Park, and in the Battery, as well as in Brooklyn, Jersey City, and Hoboken. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:14. Let's go down to Washington. The president expressing his unhappiness with Russia's leader.
I'm not happy with Putin. I can tell you that much right now.
President, this was during a cabinet meeting at the White House yesterday, told reporters the war in Ukraine causing thousands of deaths. He says that Vladimir Putin is also killing a lot of his own soldiers with his continued attacks. The president has been trying to hammer out a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine and lately has put most of the blame for the continued fighting on Putin.
Because he's killing a lot of people. And a lot of them are his soldiers and their soldiers, mostly.
And meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he's also in D.C. for meetings this week with U.S. officials. Netanyahu says Israel's working with the U.S. to find countries that would take in Palestinians that have been displaced in Gaza by the war with Israel. Correspondent Matt Bradley's in D.C., and he says there's actually been little movement now towards a Gaza ceasefire. Initially, it looked good. Now they say not so good.
Hamas wants to see that any release of their hostages says in the Gaza Strip will result in a full end to the war and Israel's withdrawal from the enclave. And the Israelis, for their part, have not budged from their position that they will not end the war until Hamas is completely destroyed.
So there were high-level meetings taking place in Qatar between Hamas, Israel, and the U.S. over the weekend, but we've heard some of those conversations have gone sour.
What was started with a burst of optimism before Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Washington just yesterday, now it looks as though it's more of the same. The same impasse is dividing Israel from Hamas in terms of these negotiations.
Prime Minister's still in the U.S., hoping that something can be hammered out. In a moment, we'll go back down to D.C. We'll tell you what's going on with those tariff letters that were sent out yesterday. But first, 5:16, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the diamond in the Bronx. Giancarlo Stanton hit a 3-run homer. Austin Wells went deep for the third consecutive game, and the Yankees pounded the Seattle Mariners 10-3 in the opener of a 3-game series. Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh traded late homers after the outcome was all but decided, with Raleigh's 36th of the season keeping the Seattle catcher 2 ahead of Judge for the Major League lead. Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt each had 3 hits for the Yankees, who won their second straight following a 6-game slide. Rookie right-hander Will Warren pitched 5 2/3 shutout innings, rebounding from an ugly start in Toronto last week. With his 2-run shot in the 8th, Raleigh eclipsed Hall of Fame slugger Ken Griffey Jr. for the most homers by a Mariners player before the All-Star break. Barry Bonds holds the big league record with 39 for San Francisco in 2001. Raleigh just 3 off there. New York still sits 3.5 games back of Toronto for first place in the AL East. Up next for the Yanks, right-hander Cam Schlitter, who will be called up by the Yankees to make his Major League debut in place of the injured Clark Schmidt. We'll get the start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game set against Seattle. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. In Baltimore, Juan Soto singled in the tie-breaking run in the 10th inning, and the Mets hit 3 home runs in a 7-6 comeback victory over the Orioles. New York trailed 6-2 before rallying past the O's to improve to 5-34 when trailing after 7 innings. That's actually pretty good. Ronnie Mauricio, Francisco Lindor, and Pete Alonso homered for the Mets, who are in hot pursuit of first-place Philadelphia in the NL East, now tied atop the division following Philly's loss in San Francisco last night. Soto hit the first pitch from Yennier Cano to score Lindor in the 10th, and Huascar Braziban worked the bottom half for his second save. Up next for the Mets, the lefty David Peterson gets a start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series against the O's. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Baltimore. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19. President Trump talking about those take-it-or-leave-it tariff letters that went out yesterday to dozens of countries. In the U.S., he says, has already begun reaping the rewards of deals that have been signed off on.
The tariffs, as you know, are starting to come in at record levels. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in to our country. We never did that before. We're not used to it. We only have tariffs going out.
He says he expects more trade deals to be rolling in soon. The president praising to the passage of his big, beautiful bill, saying that everyone that voted for it voted for a tax break for the American people.
We only adhere to the rules of other nations who charge us tremendous tariffs because we were led by stupid people, poor people without any business sense.
Yeah, he took a shot at Democrats, well, a number of them yesterday during this back and forth with reporters, saying that they brought death to the U.S. by allowing millions of illegal immigrants to flood the country. And while we're talking about the Democrats, they're trying to figure out, of course, who their leader is these days after losing the election last November. Is it California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom? Well, apparently he thinks it is. He was in South Carolina yesterday to take a tour with state Democrats, and he says that the meetings yesterday are about building partnerships. It also sounds like he's really thinking about making a run for the White House. He spoke yesterday in the tiny town of Petey, which is on the Petey River. It's actually a very nice town.
I'm back here. Yes, talking about the world we're living in, but also trying to push back.
South Carolina Democratic Party says the tour includes communities that are often overlooked by the GOP. But this 2-day tour, of course, ramping up speculation that Newsom is eyeing a 2028 run for the White House. Of course, he refused to give reporters a straight answer about it.
I have the privilege as governor of California, but I also have the privilege of someone that is as outraged and fearful as you.
The governor says for now he wants to be the voice that'll push back against the Trump White House. 521 down to Florida. A friend of the Alexander brothers speaking out now after his sexual assault charge was dropped.
39-year-old Ohad fisherman thanked his wife for believing in him despite being accused of holding down a victim in an alleged gang rape on New Year's Eve in 2016.
This should never ever happen. I'm a husband, a working man, and a soon-to-be a father. What happened to me, it's a lesson in what can happen to anyone when the system breaks down.
Fisherman said even though the case was dropped, his reputation has been irreparably damaged. The gang rape case against the Alexander brothers continues and lawyers are due in court next week. Karen Curtis, Miami.
Some of President Trump's base erupting in outrage over the Justice Department FBI's memo stating they found no evidence that the notorious deceased financier Jeffrey Epstein kept a client list with many of the president's loyal allies. One of them yesterday, Laura Loomer, was on with Sid, just blasting the administration's leadership. President Trump, he doesn't really get all the talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Attorney General Pam Bondi said a list of Epstein's clients was under review, and she was asked about possible release months ago. But during a cabinet meeting, Trump scolded a reporter who brought up the subject. Bondi said that her previous statement was a general answer to a question about the entire Epstein investigation, not specific to that client list. But some supporters of the president, they really want to see what's on this list, and they think there's more to this story.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
Yeah, so apparently, though, some of the president's allies will continue to talk about him. 523. So what does Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy have against the NYPD and the MTA?
MTA Chief Jano Liebers responding to Sean Duffy's continued criticism of New York City subway crime. Liebers says the Transportation Secretary asked him for security information 3 months ago, and the MTA provided it.
We sent him 20 pages of information on the good news that crime is down in every significant way. And we talked about all the MTA efforts, cameras and otherwise, more police presence to get it done.
He also says he doesn't understand why Duffy keeps criticizing the NYPD. Lisa Ritchie, 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 524. The TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, scrapping a nearly 2-decade-old rule that was never really that popular with airline passengers. You'll no longer have to take off your shoes. Here's Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem making the announcement yesterday.
TSA will no longer require travelers to remove their shoes when they go through our security checkpoints.
Yeah, it's such a hassle to take them off, then go pick them back up, tie your shoes again. The TSA estimate is to have screened about 2.5 million people each year.
We know that when President Trump was elected, that he pledged to make life better for all Americans, and that includes those who are travelers going through our busy airports.
Yeah, when you talked to flyers yesterday, they were pretty excited that it's like one less thing you have to do when you go through that security line.
That's really great news. Yeah, that's really awesome. It's a bit of a hassle. You're balancing issues. You're taking off your shoes. You're trying to do it in a rushed manner. And I do have concern for others in front of me and behind me, and it just seemed like it was just unnecessary.
Yeah, so that hassle is all but over now. 525, State Department investigating incidents involving someone using an AI-generated voice impersonating the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to apparently contact U.S. and foreign officials. State Department says they know about this. Here's the spokeswoman, Tammy Bruce, says her department's aware of these reports of this AI-generated voice impersonating Marco Rubio.
The State Department, of course, is aware of this incident and is currently monitoring and addressing the matter.
Now, they wouldn't give us a whole lot of details about how they found out about this, what this person or AI-generated voice did, who they spoke with. The person did get in touch with 3 foreign ministers and 2 U.S. officials in mid-June via the Signal messaging app and left voicemails for at least 2 of them, but they wouldn't tell us what was in this, who's behind this.
I will not go into any of the details.
Yeah, still just kind of a crazy story of all the things they're doing with AI. 526, an endorsement and some insight on New York City's mayoral race from the city's largest teachers union.
The powerful United Federation of Teachers endorsed Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani Tuesday after being unable to pick a preferred candidate in the primary. Union President Michael Mulgrew told reporters their choice was between Mamdani and current Mayor Eric Adams, despite previously calling Adams a, quote, hostage to the Trump administration. He added that retirees in the city's largest teachers union largely backed Andrew Cuomo in an internal poll, while most active UFT members supported Mamdani. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 9th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sun and clouds this morning. Chance of afternoon thunderstorms again today. The high going to be 90. It's going to be awfully humid. Feel much like it did yesterday. And then tonight and overnight, scattered thunderstorms, low 74. And then it's the same drill for Thursday. I mean, not as warm, but we'll have clouds in the morning, thunderstorms in the afternoon. The high will be 84. That's much more manageable. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 75, partly cloudy in Long Beach out on Long Island. It's 73 and partly cloudy in West Milford over in New Jersey. And it's 74 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 538. I asked a question when we went to break. Is there a radio hall of fame? And I get like a slew of messages, direct messages on Instagram. No, there is no physical radio hall of fame. I'm a big enough geek I would go to it. But there is no one to go to. So maybe someone will build one. 539. This is an awfully disturbing story out of Coney Island over the 4th of July holiday weekend. A woman claims she was raped on Coney Island Beach on the 4th of July, late at night. We'll just give you her first name, even though she gave us her full name. Her name is Malaysia. She said she was headed to the boardwalk. This was late Friday night when she came upon a man on the beach who would later be her rapist.
I got off the bus at 11 p.m., missed the fireworks. At this point, I'm making the most of my night. He gave me bad vibes. I really looked at him. He had a scar on his lip. I tried to run away, and I fell 3 times.
She said this man attacked her twice, once on the sand. And she says when that attack took place on the sand, there were people around who pulled out their phones and recorded the attack, who did not come to her rescue, even though she screamed for this guy to get off her. Then she made her way away from this individual onto the street, and she said she was attacked a second time. Again, no one coming to her rescue.
He saw that I was on the floor, and that's when he put his face between my legs, and I started screaming, and everyone started laughing and recording me. Nobody helped. Nobody stopped. I swore if I'm wrong, if they play the video, I swore he had a book bag, and that's what made my heart beat, because I'm from Brooklyn, like a man with a book bag, and you don't know what's inside.
Yes, so the NYPD has confirmed there was a report of a rape on Coney Island on a Saturday that they got a call about a rape. Malaysia, she's asking any of these witnesses to do the right thing and come forward with the video that they have so they can find this guy. She says she's been in contact with the NYPD Special Victims Unit, hopes sharing her story will help bring them more clues so they can catch this individual who attacked her on the sand on Coney Island on July 4th. 541. Con Ed yesterday holding hearings over rate hikes. Yeah, you're going to have to pay more. Whenever they hold hearings, have they ever held a public hearing for the MTA, for the subway, for New Jersey Transit, for Con Ed, where at the end of the hearings they said, no, we're not going to raise rates. Never happens that way. But people show up, and I don't blame them, to yell and scream that they can't afford to pay more because it's going to go up. Some 11%. That's what Con Ed wants. They're proposing an 11% increase in electricity costs, a 13% hike on natural gas costs. Now, we saw this in New Jersey last month. They raised rates there. the average person paying $27 more a month, a lot more. And so this is the same kind of thing here. And so people showed up at these hearings trying to convince Con Ed this is bad for New Yorkers.
Go back to the drawing board and figure this out, but you're not going to get that kind of rate increase from our hardworking New Yorkers, particularly our seniors.
That was Governor Hochul yesterday. The company says the proposed increase will help pay for infrastructure upgrades, deal with higher demand. But the governor says she's going to do everything she can to get in the way of this rate increase proposal.
And this is a real hit on families. They didn't budget for this. They weren't planning for this.
All right. My experience, and no doubt your experience as well, is usually when they ask for the rate hike, they eventually get it. 542. MTA Chief Jano Liebers really upset with Sean Duffy, who's the Transportation Secretary. He says that he's upset with Sean Duffy for keep slamming the MTA, the subway system, for crime. He says crime's down on the subway, and he says Sean Duffy clearly is not paying attention.
We sent him 20 pages of information on the good news that crime is down in every significant way. And we talked about all the MTA efforts, cameras and otherwise, more police presence to get it done.
Yeah, so Lieber says he just doesn't get it, why Duffy keeps coming after him.
I don't get why Secretary Duffy continues to assail the NYPD. That's his own problem. I don't get it.
Some of this may have to do with congestion pricing.
Crime is way down. Ridership is up, and congestion pricing is an amazing success. Everybody recognizes it. Eventually, they'll figure it out in Washington.
Yeah, MTA pushing back against those accusations on the part of the Transportation Secretary that things aren't safe down below. 543. President Trump has an opinion, but he insists he's not going to get involved in the race for mayor here in New York City. He noted that Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani is leading in the polls, but cautioned New Yorkers not to vote for the man he says is actually a communist.
If a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same.
The president says Mamdani has a good line of BS. He actually used the real word.
Who's not very capable, in my opinion, other than he's got a good line of bull.
Yeah, so we had to bleep that out. In fact, actually, the bite's a whole lot longer, and I want to play it. The president was talking about Zohran Mamdani's plan to set up these city-run grocery stores. Of course, the owner and operator of WABC, the host of Katz and Cosby, every day at 5 o'clock, John Catsimatidis, owns Gristedes. And he, of course, would be affected by this if the mayor came in and started these city-run stores. So the President Trump, he was talking about John yesterday during his cabinet meeting.
Number one, you have a communist running, and you shouldn't vote for him. He's a disaster. He's leading. He's got the Democrat nomination because that shows you where the Democrats have gone. He actually wants to take over the grocery stores of John Catsimatidis, who's a great guy, a rich guy, grocer, does a good job. Wants to take over. He actually called me the other day. He's concerned his stores are going to be taken from him, and they won't be run like John runs them. Believe me, he runs a good operation. But he actually said he wants to run his own grocery stores. No, this is a man who's not very capable, in my opinion, other than he's got a good line of bullshit, and he's convinced them to go with him.
All right. In a moment, we're going to hear from the other candidates in the race. They were all speaking out yesterday. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Here's Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Layden. We'll start here on the diamond in the Bronx. Giancarlo Stanton hit a 3-run homer. Austin Wells went deep for the third consecutive game, and the Yankees pounded the Seattle Mariners 10-3 in the opener of a 3-game series. Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh traded late homers after the outcome was all but decided. Raleigh's 36th of the season, keeping the Seattle catcher 2 ahead of Judge for the Major League lead. Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt each had 3 hits for the Yankees, who won their second straight following a 6-game slide. Rookie right-hander Will Warren pitched 5 2/3 shutout innings, rebounding from an ugly start in Toronto last week. With his 2-run shot in the 8th, Raleigh eclipsed Hall of Fame slugger Ken Griffey Jr. for the most homers by a Mariners player before the All-Star break. Barry Bonds holds a big league record with 39 for San Francisco in 2001. Raleigh just 3 off there. New York still sits 3.5 games back at Toronto for first place in the AL East. Up next for the Yankees, right-hander Cam Schlitter, who will be called up by the Yankees to make his Major League debut in place of injured Clark Schmidt. We'll get the start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game set against Seattle. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium.
Where was he called up from, do you know?
Double-A, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. Somerset.
Where is their AA team? Do we know?
I want to say Somerset.
Oh, okay. New Jersey.
Yeah, I want to say that, but they change it up all the time. I mean, back when I was a kid, you had what'd you call them? You had the Columbus. What were they? The Columbus, whatever they were.
Ohio, you mean?
No, but I don't know. They had like a AAA team from Columbus. I don't know if it was in Columbus, Ohio, but they were called the Columbus something or other.
Can you imagine being this kid, though, being called up? It's like the most exciting thing that's probably ever happened to him in his life.
Clippers.
Yeah, the Columbus Clippers back in the day. I think that was their AAA affiliate. And
AAA.
Yeah, and now they switch it up because minor league baseball, interestingly enough, a few years ago, they had that whole funding issue, and they had to scrap a lot of these minor league teams. So a lot of organizations, I think they go, they used to have an independent league team or a low A team, and now they just go kind of single A, double A, and then it's triple A.
Joseph Nolan reports that you're right, it is the Somerset team. It's the Somerset Patriots.
There you go.
They play in Bridgewater.
There you go. I nailed it.
Yeah.
God, good for me. Cam Schlitter, congratulations. In Baltimore, one soda single.
Let's hope he doesn't get bombed on the mound, yeah?
Well, chances are he will. To some extent. But hey, listen, we're rooting for him.
Yeah.
Because Clark Schmidt down for the count. That's a big loss for the Yanks. So Schlitter has got to do a little something on the hill there. In Baltimore, Juan Soto singled in a tiebreaker run in the 10th inning, and the Mets hit 3 homers in a 7-6 comeback victory over the Orioles. They are in hot pursuit of first-place Philadelphia in the NL East, now tied atop the division following Philly's loss in San Francisco last night. Up next for the Mets, the lefty David Pearson gets to start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game series against the O's. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Baltimore. That is your Sports Know, man. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Thank you very much, Justin. WABC News Time 550. We were talking about the race for mayor here in New York City. Mayor Eric Adams sitting down with Eyewitness News yesterday to talk about his bid for re-election. He does not believe the polls that show him third or fourth place in the race. And he says all you have to do is look at the polls in the Democratic primary that got it wrong. That had Andrew Cuomo, almost all of them except for one, had Andrew Cuomo walking away with the race over Zohran Mamdani.
We just saw a campaign that a person was up 32 points and lost by 12 points. So why are we going to believe another concept like that again?
And the mayor says the calls for him to drop out, they're just silly. He says the Cuomo campaign did ask him to drop out. He says he found it all kind of laughable.
What would it take for you to drop out?
When I win, I don't have to. There's no reason to drop out.
Yeah, so he's not getting out. Meanwhile, Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee, notched another endorsement from the Manhattan Democratic Party.
Mamdani appeared before members of the party at a Monday night meeting. Party leader Keith Wright had supported Andrew Cuomo in the primary. Cuomo and Mayor Eric Adams will appear on the ballot as independents. Governor Kathy Hochul and New York Senator Chuck Schumer, both prominent Democrats, have not yet endorsed a candidate. As for President Trump, a Republican, well, he notes the socialist Mamdani is leading in the polls, but he cautioned New Yorkers not to vote for him using the full expletive. Trump said Mamdani has a good line of BS and that if he wins, the Big Apple will never be the same. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Mamdani also picked up another endorsement yesterday from the United Federation of Teachers. After being unable to pick a preferred candidate in the primary, the union president there, Michael Mulgrew, telling reporters yesterday that retirees in the city's largest teachers union largely actually backed Andrew Cuomo in an internal poll, while the most active UFT current members who are teachers, they all seem, or for the majority anyway, support Mamdani. 552. Former NYPD Commissioner Eddie Caban resigned last September after federal investigators seized his phone. At the time, the nature of the investigation was unclear, but a new lawsuit claims to shed some light on the matter. Former NYPD Chief of Detectives James Essig alleges in court papers that Caban was selling promotions for former high-ranking police officials have filed these lawsuits now detailing corrupt corruption and cronyism in the NYPD. The lawsuits include an allegation that former police commissioner Eddie Caban sold those promotions for as much as $15,000. The officials say they were forced out of the department as retaliation for raising those alarms. All 4 former officials resigned or retired in the fall of 2023. They're seeking lost wages and damages of $5 million each. 5:53. Let's go up to the Bronx, where a mother is speaking out after the NYPD says her 18-year-old daughter died while in custody over the weekend. 18-year-old Sanaya Cheatham was detained inside the 41st Police Precinct in Longwood when apparently she became unresponsive. Cheatham's family and other supporters rallying outside the 41st Precinct yesterday called on the NYPD to be transparent about what took place.
Our family is broken-hearted, broken down. We lost a part of us.
Family says police first told them that Cheatham died by suicide inside the precinct cell. They later said they were told it was a medical emergency before calling the death suspicious.
Sanaya's not really a fighter. She would rather talk to you first than hit you or start a fight with you or anything like that.
Now, this is what Cheatham's family is telling us, that the teenager was on her way home from a cookout in Crotona Park when she got into a fight with her girlfriend, was arrested for disorderly conduct. They say she had never been in trouble before. In fact, was an A student finishing her freshman year at Bronx Community College. So they just want to know what took place inside the precinct.
She was a very loving, sweet, smart girl, outgoing, silly. I just need to know what happened. I would like to see cameras. I want to see that my daughter hung herself. I don't know what to believe.
Now, this is what the medical examiner is saying, that there was an examination that took place on Monday and that the cause of death, at least for now, is pending further study. 5:55, while we're up in that area, police searching for the gunman who shot a 21-year-old man who was, this is Long Island. Let's out to Long Island, where police are searching for a gunman who shot a 21-year-old man who was sitting in his car in a residential neighborhood. This was in Selden, Long Island. Investigators say the victim was in the driver's seat on Comet Road when an unknown man approached his door, opened it, and then shot him in the leg. He's okay, but the victim got out of the car and even fought with the shooter, who fled the scene. Neighbors were surprised that they didn't really hear the commotion right outside their house.
That shocked me, and it's weird because I was up at 10:45 and my window's right there. And I didn't hear no police presence whatsoever.
Yeah, officials have not released the victim's identity, whether they made an arrest or what they're searching for, or even a potential motive of why this guy was shot. And in New Jersey yesterday, Edison, New Jersey, at the Alba Wine and Spirits warehouse, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, ICE, made a raid there yesterday. Total of 15 employees taken into custody. They swarmed this property, demanded identification from the workers inside. Those who were cleared were told to wear wristbands. Others without proper ID were zip-tied and put into waiting vans. This man, who says he's an American citizen, says he was tackled and then convinced these ICE agents that he was an American citizen.
They was pushing me. They was harassing me. When I told them to keep their distance, they pushed me down the floor and handcuffed me.
Yeah, eventually they freed him. Federal agents left the property, again, after making 15 arrests. This trucker outside trying just to do business at this warehouse.
Right now, it's maybe 4 or 5 trucks there stuck. So I was one of the last one, and I was managed to back out.
And what we're hearing from relatives of those who were detained, they were told that their loved ones were being headed or sent to either a detention center in Elizabeth or one in Newark.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC invite you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.